Special session is no way.
Good morning, everyone. Let us stand and we'll do pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Happy Wednesday, day 3 of budget. And Jake, could you do roll call, please?
Keisha Johnner,
Here.
Jim Mueller,
Here.
Steve McCombs. Here.
I'll entertain a motion for today's agenda.
Move to approve today's agenda.
Second. McCombs. Aye. Mueller.
Aye.
Johnner.
Aye. On to business, which we are, like I said, day 3 of budgets. And we are going to have conservation come up. Kale. Good morning. No, Department 22. Do you have books for us,
I
Kale?
do. I tried to keep the same format that the other guy did, so Jim's already heard this at our.
Oh, your budget or your chair meetings, I mean, yep. Okay,
Put another copy up in here so we can hopefully make.
So you
it
can
figure
talk?
it out. Yeah.
He's been battling it for quite a while.
bless your heart.
Boys
Glad
and
you were
girls.
able to come. Hopefully, yeah, feeling better. So anyways, we will
All right,
start.
okay. So, again, same format that Steve used to do. So expenditure breakdown, total budget is $2,025,958. So your first one is gonna show you last year's, or this current fiscal year, excuse me. Our increase is $236,499, so it's 13% increase. And we'll get down into that more. The majority of that is coming through the reserve stuff. So health insurance, I know that came down significantly, so I don't know how you guys manipulate that after the fact, but obviously I had to have this turned in prior to.
Nope.
So conservation department's facing something that they haven't faced ever with some new employees. So in here, I just gave a breakdown of the differences where people have different salary increases. So the director, we do an escalator system. So the conservation board, I'd be on year 2 of it to get me back up. That'd be about 7%. The admin assistant, she's entering year 3 of hers. Maintenance tech, he's entering year 2 at 7.4%. And this gets you back to the district averages as well as state. And then our naturalist at 7%. So our maintenance tech, he's actually got 11 years of experience and he's a certified officer. We stole him from Haskell County. So he's got more experience than actually the state average as well as our district average. So we need to get him to where he needs to be. Same with our naturalist, with Marla retiring 35+ years of experience. We got really fortunate and got a naturalist with 21 years of experience. I was pretty concerned about that going into that process, but we got really lucky. Karen's doing a great job. So getting those people back up to where they need to be is a high priority of the conservation board. I know Jim already heard all this at the conservation board meeting in January, but as you guys know, this department hasn't had turnover. The conservation board wants to make sure we don't have turnover. Across the state, there's less people going into this field and it's getting harder and harder to get quality employees. So the conservation board really takes it serious in regarding development of our employees and retaining our employees. They've done a great job in the past and we want to keep that going. So on that second page here, we go to the generated revenue. So camping fees, shelters, pavilions, etc. Last year, there was a rate increase. I know Steve covered that with you. I did not change anything there. I don't anticipate any changes really in that. Online reservation fees, I did bump up a little bit. That's an in-out thing. That's just what the user pays for online stuff. But accounting wise, we have to account for that. So it's that whole in-out process. So that incorporates just a little bit more usage because technically Steve had it at 38, but it was supposed to be 44 this last year. Anyway, and then with our new cabins coming online, that incorporates that increase of 4,000. So a 9% increase on that. Conservation reserve, that's where our number gets big here. So we're looking to basically expend $250,000. We'll cover that here in a little bit. Last year, this current fiscal year, excuse me, it was at $50,000, so $200,000 increase. Cabin sales tax, that's again, an in-out thing, the user, we have to pay that to the state, so no change anticipated on that. Steve had that number relatively high, so we should be good moving forward. Again, if it increases, it's an in-out, it's not an expense to us, it's just one of those cost of doing business things. So the total revenue is 912,018. That's a 28% increase again due to the cabins. Fund 1, your breakdown.
And that, is that with what you're projecting for the new cabin?
Yep.
Okay.
So, because that's all, we're not sure when they're gonna come online, but yes, that's kind of I tried to be conservative on that, so.
Okay.
Fund 1, so that comes to 841,103, so your increase is 0.36% increase for Fund 1. Fund 2, your increase is 12%, the big bulk of that, so the dollar amount, that's 29,617. That includes a new health insurance plan that was never budgeted for, so that's, the majority of it, that's 23,000 and change. So Fund 1, Fund 2 is 1,113,940. Our tax increase asking is 32,445. That includes obviously everything, salaries and everything. It's a 3% increase. Total budget, revenue and budget is 912,018. That's 45% of our total budget. And then again, it's got a breakdown of the camping fees, pavilion, online reservation fees, shelter house, fuel tax, cabin sales tax, and then that reserve money. So that total budget again is 2,025,958. So major projects, we'll get into that. $250,000 is for the county park roads. I know that's been talked about in the past, but we're to that point now where we've got to make some serious improvements on these roads. So Tyler and I went out a month and a half ago, and this first picture here highlights the areas that Tyler looked at.
Mhm.
So we're focusing for the most part on this conversation, the entrance and the campground. There's other stuff obviously in the back. We'll touch on that here in a little bit. So there's a breakdown, poured concrete, obviously. Concrete's more expensive than asphalt in most situations. Certain areas we might be able to do asphalt, certain areas we need to do concrete due to the wear and tear with heavy campers nowadays. So there's just a breakdown of it. One of the key areas that we need to address on this fiscal budget is number 5. That's the entrance road, and I've got some pictures here. You'll see them. But obviously, being the entrance road, everybody uses that, campers, people alike. And then also in the campground, we need to target those areas as well, because that generates quite a bit of revenue for us. County parks obviously very popular, so we need to make sure the infrastructure is good in there. So again, I'm gonna hit these big points here. You have the packet, you can go back and look at it too. But so this next page, this shows the newest edition where water and sewer was placed in. So this would be, if you reference the picture before, it's going to be road number 2, that top left.
Okay.
It's gonna be the northwest corner. So this picture was taken late fall of 23. And if you look to the next page, that was its condition in July. So it's reverted back to gravel. It used to be seal coat. It needs to be addressed. So what you can't tell is that gully right there to the left, it goes up to about my knee after that rain event.
Yeah.
So staff spends a lot of time after any rain regrading this road. So this is going to be a high priority as well, including in addition to that entrance. As you can see, there's about 16 or 17 campsites that have to use this road. So and then they have to turn that cul-de-sac. It's not a through road. So
Okay.
double the wear and tear essentially.
So to be clear, this is the same area, just 1 year later.
Correct. So that just
So,
shows you
I mean,
how quickly it deteriorated in that seal coat.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Steve knows all about that with secondary roads, how bad the seal coat gets. So again, the top picture here is the main entrance road. I think Tyler refers to this to alligator. So just that spider web cracking everywhere. Then the next picture is the main campground road. Again, same thing. So it was asphalt on that main road on the top, and then it was seal coated on top of it. This seal coat for the main campground, I believe that was done in 2008 as well. So it's way past end of life on that seal coat. So we're gonna need to spend some significant money on those roads because of it. Number 2 on expenditures, the Marion County Park playground. So we're looking at putting in a different type of playground near Shelter House 4. This was just an example of rendering from online, just a different rail system. That way it would be more multi-use. The current playground, we've had too many issues with there, so it got removed. We're gonna replace it with a different type. And playgrounds are not cheap, as you all know. Nothing is anymore. Next big expenditure, lift station for Roberts Creek, east side. This is the main lift station. We had that go down. The pump itself was just over $10,000. And we were told that we're living on borrowed time with just that system. It's incredibly old. So this involves upgrading electrical from single to 3-phase and then getting a different type of pump. Currently it's a grinder pump. They get clogged a lot. It's also not needed because the other pumps in the campgrounds are grinder pumps. So this one can be retrofitted and made a non-clog pump is what they are. So basically the impellers won't get clogged essentially. So should take care of any issues that we've been having. This went down, I think my second week here. So pretty expensive to replace those grinder pumps. These new pumps are a lot better. That's what more municipalities are going to, according to the service reps we're talking to. Equipment. Vehicle upgrade or vehicle rotation, standard thing. Skid loader, that's a bigger one. The current skid loader is 2011. It's been overhauled on the engine twice, so it just needs to be replaced, and then getting a actual brush mower. So that price comes out to $105. Snow plow, just kind of a standard rotation, replacing one from 2004. Outdated and not working very well. Same thing with the mowers, replacing 2 of those. We've got 8 mowers, so getting caught back up on there. We're way out of rotation on our mowers. And then body cameras for law enforcement officers. It's going to be the same system that the sheriff's office used. We're just going to piggyback, so reduce the cost on that. We currently don't have cameras, and that's something we need to do for just the day and age of law enforcement.
How many law enforcement do you have?
4 certified officers. We all do technically regulation enforcement and all that stuff though. So, but active patrolling, 4 officers with arrest capabilities.
The vehicle upgrades, are those net of any trade-in value or allocation to another department?
This one, we're just gonna, normally Steve traded off a Tahoe. We're gonna keep that for our naturalist to help reduce mileage. That way our naturalist has a county vehicle to use. It's bigger than her current car when she goes into this program. So, but normally what we do is the primary vehicle for a ranger becomes the secondary vehicle for the seasonals to use, pulling stuff, that type of thing.
So there should be a reduction then in mileage reimbursement?
That's the goal. Yep.
Okay.
That was my
Beautiful.
intent with it. Yep.
And then your naturalists, if they, I'm assuming they don't take those home if they don't live within the.
No, it stays at the park. Once they get there and they go to a school or to a
Okay.
program, they use a county vehicle.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yep. So that's the intent behind that. So, minor projects, shower building walls at the county park, that block, being porous, old soap scum, kind of just unsightly. So looking at covering that up with a vinyl material or fiberglass, one of the two. Roof replacement, outdated shingles, replacing those to steel. Cordova shelter, this one is by the tower. It's got a kind of a funky 2-tiered system the state did back in the 90s and early 80s. So for those of you that either do or don't remember, this used to be a state park at one point. County ended up taking it over. So this shelter is just going to be replacing the roof and not making it reducing the 2-tiered system down to a standard pitch. So
Do you guys do that then, your staff?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So the previous things we just talked about, yeah, that's us.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
it's easier obviously when you can do it in house because you know it's done right. So
Yep, no.
excuse me. So that's the goal there on that shelter house is to replace the roof and bring it back just to a regular pitch. Cordova office building, obviously that was done over 2 fiscal years last year. But the landscaping was never part of the project, so now we need to get landscaping done around it. Just native plants and that type of stuff. Pretty minimal cost on that. But
Is there any grants on that? Has there been
for landscaping,
like for the naturalist part of that, you know what I mean? I just didn't know if.
you mean like if we were to do an interpretive trail or?
Yeah, well, like
or-
if you I know that there's
sometimes-
shrubs and stuff like that. Sometimes you can,
Sometimes there is, it depends the application for it. Like, there may be a Trees Forever grant, it wouldn't apply for this, but if you did it in a park, you could do it with that. But for actual landscaping around a building, not a whole lot. Now, if you were to incorporate a bigger planting like into a pollinator plot, yes. If you have extra seed, you could probably put it towards that, but yes and no. It all depends, like anything, how you word it, I guess.
Do we have any pollinator plots?
Yeah, there's one by the
Monarchs?
Roberts Creek boat
Okay.
ramp, west side.
Okay.
That's where the butterfly garden got moved to,
Ah,
and they made it
I'm
bigger.
a big
Yep.
monarch guy, so.
Yep. So, well, and I'll touch on this in a later, but don't let me forget on that. So, the Cordova Park Pavilion, so kind of to answer your question, Keisha, this area would maybe a spot we can get a grant to do. For part of it, in this picture here, you'll see where we wanna, it's currently just brome grass. We did get that burned off this spring, or this fall, actually. We're gonna plant that in prairie and forbs and short grass mix. That way it kind of looks more attractive for weddings or whatever venues are going on at the pavilion. Additionally, look at doing more sidewalks. I'm gonna call it the west and east side of the pavilion. Increase access to it from the parking lot. Currently, there's only the one
Right.
sidewalk, so. It seems like a lot of people have been doing food trucks for their weddings or big events, whatever, and they've been parking on each side of that main one. If we had some more sidewalks, you obviously get a circular flow type of deal, so upgrades to that. Additionally, I couldn't do it on this map, but there's the teardrop down there. We'd be doing a pollinator planting, in that area too, where there's overflow parking. That way the whole area would be a bit more scenic. That would also help. You've seen it in the fall. A lot of people go out and take pictures, family photos and that type of stuff, senior photos. So that area is kind of renovate that area with.
So
Excuse me.
this is kind of on and off the topic, but if I remember right, when Steve was here and are we housing a DNR or somebody? What's out at the public health? What is it? Forestry.
Oh, yeah.
One of the reasons we could, is maybe we would be able to receive something of a benefit, maybe, within Marion County. Could you maybe just reach out to him and see if there's anything, maybe works within this with the forestry part of it, I don't know that, feel like you would know
Yeah.
it, but I just want to bring it up because I don't know that we've ever.
Forestry versus the native plantings aren't the same department, so.
Okay.
I mean, there's tree grants out there that we're looking at. Some of them are federal orientated, so you need to have, Jake's gonna remember the number, but you had to have it for COVID. There's federal numbers. I don't know if we'd have to have our own county one. SAM numbers.
A unique identifier.
Yes.
I just know one of the benefits of us housing was,
Yeah, so my understanding that was, again, this was way before my time when that happened, but my understanding was with you guys housing them, the DNR would prioritize county residents for forestry matters, whether it's forest reserve or if they have a question on urban stuff, whatever,
okay.
Does that kind of sound accurate or? That was.
It just forced, it was just an overall,
Yeah,
just was thinking of it.
We do, yeah, and our naturalist actually worked for Trees Forever for a while, so she's got a good insight on that track too, so. We do look for grants and that type of stuff whenever we can. Like I said, we're kind of looking at one right now, but I need to talk to Jake about getting a SAM number, which that's the reaction I knew.
You're good.
So, yeah. So, but yeah, we do look at grants whenever we can to help offset any of those types of costs, so. And that kind of brings me back to, we're looking at, I'll talk about it more, but like you said, Jim, Monarch guy, around the trail, we want to do more incorporated prairie plantings along that trail system. So make it more scenic and help for that. So. Questions so far? Stop me when, obviously you guys have been, but keep stopping me. All right, so potential future projects. Replacement of the large shelter house at Cordova. So this one is kind of by the original 2-bedroom cabins. This one is kind of beyond saving. The pillars are rotting out and stuff. Again, it was built in the 70s by the state. We're trying to figure out what we want to do there exactly. We just recently redid the restrooms in that area, so we need to, look at what we want to do. We probably don't need a large shelter house this size, but what we're kind of looking at is more of the steel structure like that are at the county parks. We've got 4 of those. maybe half the size and maybe put two potentially or something along that line. We need to do some more investigating to see what the use would be. This one has been in rough shape for long enough that it hasn't been getting used for a while, so we need to kind of examine the area and see what we can do essentially.
Is it becoming a liability issue?
That's why it's gonna come down, yeah.
How soon are we gonna take it down?
Probably this winter. We wanna make sure that we need to take it down this winter, frankly.
Yeah,
But yes.
wouldn't take much to run an inlet.
No, we've got, skid loader taken. We've already had to do that, or the department previously did that back at the Cliffs Shelter House years ago, so. That's just, this one's gonna come down. We just need to figure out what we're gonna do to replace it and how we're gonna replace it. Eventually, we're probably gonna need to replace the playground there too, and that way, that would increase use of the shelters, in my opinion, as well, for birthdays or whatever it might be, just use in general.
I think it would be important to just to mitigate the liability issues and
100%.
then,
Yep,
then we'll worry about replacing it.
that's on the
when-
list of
when the funds are
many things.
available, so.
Yep, so circling back again for future projects, the roads at the county park, you saw the map in the campground, but the first picture of the concrete here, just more spider webbed concrete areas. This is the original road, or this is original from 95 when they concreted that, to my knowledge. You see a lot of these areas where the four corners meet for these joints, they're popping in those areas. We're just gonna have to go segment by segment, and thankfully Tyler is obviously an expert, and I will say this, Tyler's really been great to work with. I didn't necessarily have that relationship at the other county I was at before because they had a lot of turnover. So credit to a lot of the department heads. They've been really great, Jake, everybody, but it's nice that it's kind of team Marion County. So I do like that. And we can rely on each other because Tyler's definitely the road expert. So, but we looked at this area, and then again, another part of the entrance road, we've just got to address these areas. They're going to continue to get worse if we don't. And we've got aging asphalt in the back of the park too. That's on the list as well. So you're looking at five years easy to cost effectively do this type of stuff. I mean, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars just at the county park alone, not counting Cordova, which has been recently redone, but like anything, it's going to take maintenance, Roberts Creek, etc. So, and then public hunting areas. So we've got a maintenance tech now. So we're going to put a higher focus on getting our wildlife areas back into good shape. When Rich retired, COVID happened. We kind of had a lot of campground projects going on. We're going to have to shift gears a little bit and get back into the wildlife areas. So removing invasives, honeysuckle, autumn olive. That's where that forestry head comes for the skid loader. Removing these, and then we can get on a regimen of spraying and mowing and planting back with natives. As you all know, Marion County is a destination for recreation, period. Public hunting is a big priority too. So that's one of our big missions that I want to get back into is like at Wilcox, Paul Todd. Those areas are going to be doing some reclamation and stuff with the state as well. So once those get done, that's the prime opportunity to get in there and reestablish stuff and stay on top of it. So, excuse me. And then kind of on trails, I know I touched on a little bit ago, we've got about a little over 5 miles of hard surface trails and then over a mile of soft surface trails at Cordova. We're also looking at putting some at the county park around the lake there. Trails are protected corridors for walkers, hikers, bicycles, etc. We've got a large network. We work with the Corps and the city, obviously, on some of the hard surface stuff we've got. So there's obviously ongoing maintenance costs with that. That's something we're always going to have. So we're going to have to obviously budget accordingly on that. This year, we were going to look at doing some minor surface crack caulking on some of the areas, kind of by the Fifield area. That's the oldest of the new section. So that we've got anyway. Future equipment replacement. You're always going to have scheduled vehicle rotations. The tractor with loader at the county park is from 2001. It's been overhauled a little bit, but it's doing pretty good. Eventually, it's going to need to get phased out. The UTV, which we use for spraying and other maintenance type stuff. Obviously, mowers. Again, we've got 8. We're looking to replace 2 right now and get back on a scheduled rotation of that. Same thing at Roberts Creek. Same type of equipment, mowers, trucks. Tractor at Cordova is 2002. Vehicle rotations again.
Do they have very
mowers.
many hours on them? Like the tractor and stuff?
The tractor, I don't know on those, yeah. I mean,
Do we-
2002, for most of those, they've been used heavily, so.
Okay.
They're getting older, so. That's kind of your 30,000 foot view of the department, but that's what we're looking at. We've done all the big projects of building campgrounds and stuff right now, and now we're gonna have to focus on some of the less glamorous infrastructure and equipment stuff for a couple of years, unfortunately. So.
Okay, so, went over looking at your budget and stuff, Kale, so I know that you, I don't know, were you at ISAC the last couple days? I didn't know if you were.
Nope.
Okay, you were, okay. So, when looking at this, it is kind of hard when you have a board that, that you are under, and then we obviously have the board of supervisors that oversee the budget. And I'm kind of lost on, I mean, I guess I've never really heard about the pay scale before. I never heard Steve talk about that, so
What did he normally cover then?
he went over the book and then we just did
Okay.
salaries, like, we discussed them, but he didn't discuss it like what you're speaking of. I don't recall ever hearing it like that, but what happens is this is kind of a situation in where you hire somebody and then you take it up and then others see that and then, then they look at that comparable and then we just constantly are doing this and it gets bigger and bigger. So, I have been speaking about more at a 3% range is what I'm looking at, because of how we have grown. COVID did do a number on us, but now when we're looking at, and this is me speaking, we'll discuss this more tomorrow, but it is, we're compounding, just to be frank. The salaries are compounding and it's getting larger, and with House File 718 and limiting us, I'm just trying to look in the future, trying to say, what can we afford? And then we also know we have some levies, whether it's Fund 2 levy, that we're gonna have to probably look at that levy rate, and then we're gonna have to look at, in the past, we've done some local option sales tax. We've put that money into the general fund. We may have to deviate and put a little bit more in Fund 2. So just changing of dynamics. I don't know that I can go, I mean, in my mind, I don't know that I can give, everybody what you're asking, I guess is what I'm saying, so.
On the salary end of it? You mean?
Mhm.
Okay, well, the total increase there again is 33,000, and again, that's, I guess, something that the board. Conservation Board has always made it a priority to do a 4-year escalator. So I know last year Steve had it on there, talked about Brandon Malin's, he was finished his 4-year escalator. So that was on the sheet there. So the unique thing, and I've got to stay down there below though, our staff, obviously, when a new supervisor comes in, they make exactly what the old one was making. So when.
Yeah, electeds are a little bit.
Correct, yep,
Yeah,
just like
it's a different beast. Yep, I
Yep, just
agree.
like the Conservation Board though, and their
Yep, yep.
employees, how they report to 350. So
Yeah.
that's where the Conservation Board has handled it forever, basically. And yet we use salary surveys and look at that type of stuff.
And I did do some salary surveys, and obviously I know that you oversee a little bit more when looking at that.
Yep.
When it comes to land, and and I'm not gonna say that I know your world to a T, you know what I mean? I mean, obviously the salary survey is the salary survey. But it's just something, when we're looking at it, obviously you were hired at 100, and then at 6 months, I'm assuming you got a $5,000 increase. And now it'd be a 7% increase.
Yep.
I guess I'm looking at more at the 3% increases is what I'm stating. And also, I'm also thinking about other department heads that aren't even, we've got electeds that aren't, department heads and electeds that aren't even, considerably even close to that. So it's something as a board, we're gonna have to really seriously talk about, because it's cause morale issues. I'm just being frank. It's nothing to do with you personally. Please do not take that. It's just something that we have to, and I know that's why we kind of discussed yesterday, or I brought it up. you know, where are we going? What are we gonna have to look at? Are we gonna have to maybe do a salary study? But I've got to do job descriptions first, then a salary study. And I do know recently I've been speaking with like Mahaska County and Jasper County, and they do have a pay scale in which they look at, and maybe so that people understand, and maybe those boards would understand, because I think sometimes people look at it as, well, yeah, we're not increasing our budget much, but here, this is what it is. But I don't think that they understand the full morale issue that it causes
Sure.
us. So,
My only counter to that would be not everybody, as you know, does the same job. So that's when Conservation Board looks at it. They try to look at district-wide, which I'm sure you guys do to some degree on things. But then you also have to keep in mind, Marion County generates a whole lot more revenue than anybody else in the district.
correct, yep.
So park rangers are exposed to a whole lot more people, a whole lot more headache also can go along with that. Your responsibilities too. You know, I'll use our naturalists, for example. We have one naturalist, most counties have 2+. So the Conservation Board, and I guess I'll use this got brought up my first week, was they expect more, so therefore they pay more. So that's been the kind of their mentality. And I'd say over the last 40, 50 years, Marion County's done pretty well in that respect. So I completely understand where you're coming at. I think one thing though is you don't want to end up like, I'll use some county conservation boards as an example. You don't want to become a training ground and have somebody jump ship once they get trained up.
But we still gotta pay for it.
100%.
Somehow.
Yep. Yep. And that's
It's
why
hard. It's tough, yeah.
yep. And that's why we try to do the best we can in generating revenue to offset our budget.
Yep.
So
So Jake, a question for you, maybe. If we have, we're handicapping our growth as far as what money we bring in. If we were to look at everybody's requests, how would we fund that? Would we have to go into the general fund? Or is that, or can we even do that?
So, yeah, so how in general, in picture, every
We gotta borrow
expense,
money.
you first of all have to look at what fund it's coming from and where are the expenses coming from that. And yes, the tax dollars is limited to whatever the legislation allows. So
Uh-huh.
that is a set number and discussed day one. There are all kinds of other outside revenues that come in. Some departments generate revenue, some don't. Some get more a year, some don't. Some go out for grants. So I mean, the tax portion, as long as you maintain the levy at the max, is what it is. Then you throw in your outside revenues. So are you getting grants? Are you getting more revenue for what you're doing? Those types of things. So whatever's left, and if there isn't enough tax dollars and there isn't enough outside revenues, then you use your savings account. Is that fair?
Basically deficit spending.
Yeah,
I mean,
yes, it can be. And then, so, I mean, that's just like anything
But
else.
that's
And
bad.
if your fund balance, and then you analyze your fund balance, your level of fund balance, your trend on how long it's going, how many years is it gonna be at this rate? What's our, all those things. But I mean, basically, tax dollars are the same. Then you add in outside revenues that fluctuate every year, can go up and can go down. And whatever's left is savings account.
And one of the things that you said earlier, and I think that's important for all of us to really recognize as well too, and it was not lost on me, and you kind of made it as an off-the-cuff comment, which I appreciate because it should be just the understood, this is our mentality, but you said Team Marion County. I mean, we don't care what department everybody is, everybody has an impact, both in revenue and in expenses. So we as a board need to make sure that we're trying to not pick favorites, not pick, okay, we're gonna give these guys more because you generate revenue. Well, other departments don't have the ability to generate revenue. They're truly only a
Expense.
service and an expense. So, I mean, I get it, I understand, and I appreciate that, and you're right, I am on the county board with you as well, a newbie for that, clearly, but the mindset needs to be too, is we need to treat everybody fairly across the board. And whether your department generates revenue or not, quite frankly, is a consideration, but not really relevant to the underlying issue of how do we balance the budget? And I would hope in that team concept of, and you're not the only department, I'm kind of speaking globally. I would hope every department that has the opportunity to generate revenue isn't looking at that and saying, well, I'm not gonna get any benefits, so I'm not gonna worry about trying to generate revenue. Because that just negatively impacts the entire department, the entire county. So everybody should be out there trying to generate the maximum amount of revenue so that it can be deployed throughout the entire county.
Yep.
So, and I'm not saying that you're not.
Oh, no,
And-
I'm not taking anything
don't
like
hear what I'm
that.
not
No,
saying.
and that comes back though to my point where the conservation board expects more out of those employees, so yep. I'm not trying to degrade anybody in the county in that respect.
And I think to Keisha's point too, I think in order to try to level that playing field and to try to make sure that everybody's being compensated fairly, a wage survey and a pay scale organizational structure is something that we really need to do, not to take power away from the individual boards that help manage these departments, but simply to try to help us make sure that everybody's being treated fairly. Yeah. I don't think anybody wants to be treated unfairly. Nobody wants something more than what anybody else is getting. I don't want to get a higher increase at the expense of Jake, because I like Jake. I mean, he's on the team too. So those are and I'm not suggesting that that's what
I'm
you're
not
after.
taking
I'm,
it like that, no.
I'm just saying, you know what? We need to put everything in perspective. Everything needs to be on the table so that we can look at it objectively and make the decisions in order to balance this sucker.
I wish we had the cash flow to do everything that everybody wants to do.
Can I just make a comment really quick? That it is, I just want to clarify that Brandon Malin, I think, was the very last one that was hired, that he was a stair step. And you'll see that if we go back and look, that he got the raise, he got the stair step. I remember having those conversations with Steve. So when he moved to be a park ranger, he didn't go to the park ranger wage that everybody else is at. He was at 4 years, he took 4 years to get up to that point.
Are you talking about Brandon?
Mhm.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that is
Again,
the
that's where
standard,
that formula comes from,
Yep.
because that's what they've done forever, so
that's
I
the,
would know no
past
different.
practice.
Obviously. That's what we do.
just,
That's what a lot of counties do. That's what I did in Hancock County. That's what was established long before me.
Okay.
So
clarification.
So the administrative, because that's a new position.
Savannah?
3 years,
So,
yep.
yeah. So, but I guess the struggle is who's setting the stair step,
Conservation Board. they
right?
set
So,
salaries.
yeah,
Yep.
so, and then that stair step implements, causes a ripple effect, right? Because they're not sitting here, and that's where the struggle is, I think, with.
I totally
this.
get, yeah, I get it.
And we're
That's the
sitting here
way-
going, okay, then the other departments look at it and go, well, they started out at this, I want to pay my employees this, and then we're seeing big increases.
Yep.
Just an example. 21, 22 budget, okay, in that area. We were roughly at 9.1 in salaries, okay?
9.1 what?
A million salary, okay? 9.1 million. Looking at this, meaning this current budget we're in, okay, not 26, we're not quite at 11, so it's like 10.9. And so, I mean, we're compounding quickly. And so it's something that we have to think about, and COVID did a number on us. I mean, we know that. And now when we talk about, and we did do several years there where some departments got 5, some departments got 6, last year, sheriff's department, got 8. I mean, so it gets, and I'm talking his regular employees. I'm leaving electeds out of this at this point because electeds got a different situation. It's just, that's the things that I have to think about where are we going and how are we going to be able to sustain it?
Yep.
Because I don't want to come back and say, hey, where are we cutting?
Yep, and that's
Okay.
where the conservation, I totally get it, and that's, the Conservation Board's doing the same thing, that's what they've done forever, so we're not trying to ask for the moon. The counties we look at, the way I understand it, the Marion County has been compared to Pot County and Muscatine County frequently on size, revenue, all that type of stuff. And so that's where the Conservation Board kind of comes down on some of these things with the salary survey and stuff. We use a salary survey, we break it down, look at like jobs, similar responsibilities, revenue generator, all that type of stuff. It's no different than, we also do, just like the comp board does, they look at like positions. We also have to look at the core too, to see what they do and don't do, because it is a comparable thing. they're in our
Okay.
backyard, especially in this county, so.
I understand the process, Gail,
Oh,
but
I know.
it's how to pay for it.
I
That's-
agree
That's
too.
what it boils
Yep,
down.
and that's my hard part, is helping prepare a budget, is trying to give it to the conservation board in that respect, so. Nope, I'm just plugging along with the escalator that they've done.
Mhm.
Wouldn't know any different and didn't get any direction, I guess, the lack of, so.
No, I appreciate that.
I think this budget prep was wonderful.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
did
it's
a great job.
It's
Yep.
very clear and concise, and it's easy to follow, and I appreciate the efforts.
Yep.
I just don't want to have to maybe 2 or 3, 4 years down the road, come back to who, we got to start cutting positions.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Or services.
Do you have any other questions for Kale?
Nope.
If not, thank you, Kale. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Gail.
thank you, Gail.
Jake, are you willing to be up and take?
I'm not sure I want to follow that. Thanks, Kale. Appreciate that, buddy. No, that's excellent. First time for us. I mean, we really appreciate Kale. I'll just leave it at that. We really appreciate
No,
Kale
no,
coming
We
in.
do. We appreciate you. And we appreciate the board in which,
Yeah.
he works under. So, I mean, it's obviously, that too is important. They have done a good job. Okay, Jake.
Okay, so this is like the actual auditor's office. So interesting. So I guess I'm gonna kind of pick up what we and ask for exactly and talk about a few things that you guys just discussed. Straight off the top, I would strongly support a wage study, classifications, set step plans, if that's the case. All those things, I think it would be beneficial to everybody. We could maybe get back to or get on a playing field. This isn't anything about the past. This would just be something moving forward. I think it's a very great concept to consider for us moving forward. So, okay, back to our office. First of all, it's my one shot a year, so I do need to say this office doesn't happen without the people that are in my office. So I'll leave it at that and just know how much I appreciate them.
100%.
All right, so let's talk about revenues because this office does not generate money. So can you click to the revenue one? So we are an expense-driven department with very limited revenue projection. And I actually don't even like one of them that says special elections. I do budget now because it seems like we have at a minimum one special election a year. So just as a big picture thing, the auditor's office, I should say the county pays for like general elections and all things like that. It's just something that the county covers for all. The only elections we can charge for is like the city school election that will be happening this November. So we do put a budget amount in for that, and we can only get back a certain portion of expenses that we do. It's none of like our time, none of anything that our office time. It's only like PEO salaries, programming, things like that. So from a revenue standpoint, we don't generate much. The only other thing is like working through, I'm not sure how the beer permits and cigarette permit revenue ended up in ours, but it's just a county thing and we just facilitate that. So that's kind of the whole revenue of my department. So now we go to expenses. I'm not going to go through each line. I do have a few very specific requests, and I will just tell you big picture. I only have 4 people other than myself. I did program because this is a one-time it's a one-time ask. I have 2 people at 5%. Danny, my deputy, is tied to me, and I honestly want to get her as much money as she can. And so she's tied at 85% to me. So whatever the electeds decide, yes, she's tied to me. Okay. And then that I do have a clerk. It's kind of weird using, but it's Marissa. She's been with us now 2 years, and she started at a very low rate. And I don't like to compare to other departments and other things, but I have a very specific ask, and it is my number one priority. I'm going to ask for like a $5,000 increase to her, which will get her to $45,000. She's a college graduate, worked with us for 2 years, learning real estate. We're moving her over and teaching her things on the other side. We really value her. And that's a specific ask, and I'll just very upfront about that. And that is priority number 1.
Thank you, Jake.
Okay.
Yep.
So, the second thing I'm asking for, and it's actually not even in this department, so it's kind of strange. I have a voting equipment need. It is actually out of Fund 2, Department 99. So Department 99 is in the FY26 year, is at the third year of our new voting equipment request. So we really appreciate this new voting equipment. It was a $150,000 purchase over 3 years. So FY26 and Department 99 has $50,000 to make that final payment. So it's general supplemental, and that will be coming off. So I'm not asking for new voting equipment next year. So I know Fund 2 looks a little rough on the projected fund balance. So this is the final year of that payment. I am requesting and have placed into that Department 99 Fund 2 portion. I've increased that line item by $40,000. Now, $40,000 is a lot of money, and it's one piece of equipment. I would like to add a second OVCS. That is our optical scan equipment that we count our absentee ballots with. Our current machine, unfortunately, price hasn't gone down from when we bought it 8 years ago, but it's got 8 years of life, and it's what we run every absentee ballot through and all of our pre-election testing. I need a second one. I feel like our department needs a second one because of the level of the number of absentee ballots that we're dealing with now. That number just keeps going up. So I would like to add a second one to use in general election. I would like to place our current one that is 8 years, which is a long life for electronic equipment, as a secondary unit, hopefully to only use in general elections or something. If we have to do all mail-in ballots or something like what happened during 2020, basically. But we need to run 2 machines. General election this fall was absentee ballots the numbers were higher than ever. I got done counting absentee ballots at 7:45. We worked all day on just those with one piece of equipment. That's nerve-wracking. I need a secondary one so we can do 2. It takes me out of the office, so I was basically at office from 8 o'clock in the morning. They handled the entire phone call downstairs, and I was upstairs with that machine. I need a second. I feel like it would be very beneficial to the county to have a second machine, especially if it goes down. That's one of my biggest
100%.
fears,
I
right?
get what you're saying, Jake, and
So-
I appreciate you asking. Actually, 8 years.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
probably need to plan for that. We probably need to budget that we're not doing 8 years. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
yeah, I would love to do
Because
that. It's got that kind of snuck up on us how long it's been.
Right. But it's just,
So-
we're risking it too, and I think we need to understand that, I mean, obviously, elections falls under your department, but I want to make sure that everybody understands, we don't receive any more income from the state,
No,
any of that for the elections. So hope the public understands that,
yeah,
these
it's
are-
locally paid for.
Huh?
It's locally paid for.
It's locally paid for, yes, right. But I would prefer, and board, I mean, I guess I want you to weigh in on this. I think we need to, on your equipment, we need to be planning accordingly on that. And so do a projection, because I mean, Jake, that would, elections alone are nerve wracking. Second of all, if you have to worry about your equipment going down or you've got aged
Well,
equipment, that's
yeah.
that's scary too. So,
Yeah, it is. And I appreciate that. And we would, yeah, it's big investments. So, but we can try and put out a schedule. So we have, the board has been very supportive. In the last few years, we were required by the state essentially to purchase an electronic poll book. We've on our second version of that, and we use 10X, and that's been really, really good. It's what you walk in and our poll workers are using. There's annual maintenance fee that goes along with that. So again, that's an additional cost. The state didn't tell us we had to use electronic poll books, but they said, if you don't have an electronic poll book, it's not challenge. What word am I looking for? Every provisional ballot has to be done on paper. Anyway, it's just something but it's actually been a really good tool for us, but there's an annual maintenance. We also last year purchased a software database for all of our precinct election officials. It includes a maintenance fee that's included in this, right? All those technology things are fantastic. We don't have to send paper letters. We can send text messages. We can send emails. So it's a wonderful tool. It kind of does come with some cost. So that maintenance is in my budget.
When it comes to elections, the only thing you want to see in the paper the next morning
It's
is the
nothing.
results.
Yeah, yeah,
Not the problems
Yeah.
that you had, nothing but.
100%. What
Yeah.
you said the other day about not being in the paper is exactly correct.
So that was 162,000, you said, Jake, or
What's that, buddy?
what was 162,000?
I'm not sure. The third year of our election equipment program is in this budget year is $50,000. So that was a $150,000
Oh, okay.
purchase that we're on year 3 for. And I have an additional 40 for the OVCS,
Okay.
the scanner. And seems like a terrible lot of money. It's what it is. They were here yesterday and maintenance, our old one, put in new rollers and things like that. That machine ran all of our test ballots this year, or in November, ran all of our election day absentee ballots. It was over 8,000. And then we did the countywide recount. And so it was at 21,000 ballots or something like that. Not that many. Yeah, you should have heard it. 13 hours. We did it over 2 days with 13 hours straight on that recount. Well, we broke that evening, but it took us 13 hours to do that recount. That machine ran the entire time. And it was screaming at the end. But anyway, okay, so that's in Department 99
Yep.
for
And
your
so
decision.
I would
And
like to consider doing something in Department 99 and looking at how we can budget yearly for something to plan.
And
So we
maybe,
can-
that can become part of your capital projects thing,
Correct.
something like that, that a savings account gets starting put aside, so it's there. And we could keep kind of a sub, Michaela's really good at helping me on that, but we could keep a sub, balance within that capital projects fund.
Okay, yeah.
I did have a thought, on that because Fund 2, that's where election, part of my budget's from Fund 2 and this equipment's Fund 2. I did have a thought as there was discussions going on this week, and I'll just throw it out to you. If Fund 2 is having some, that's the fund that we're kind of struggling with, projected fund balance and stuff. I could see this piece of equipment being a nice use for the local option sales tax that doesn't have any other, I think Tyler's got a projected project
Right.
and things like that, but $40,000 out of possibly that could be moved over to the local option sales tax fund 29 and not out of Fund 2.
Okay.
That there's nothing wrong or there's nothing prohibiting that for the
What's
rules.
happening there? 'Cause it's-
So,
yep, okay. All
If
right.
you'd want to do that, we could do that. I'm throwing that out as an opportunity or option.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
And within the budget, the other things basically is just, it's maintenance, annual maintenance is for our softwares that we're using. We have to move around our election cycles. So amazingly, when we put this in, we're budgeting for the primary election in 26. And that's just a scary thought that that's coming around that fast. But basically those numbers just move around based off of general election, city school election, those types of things. We do program a little bit for specials, hoping we don't use it.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we have a special in about 3 weeks.
So Jake, on your other, obviously you got, your deputy,
Mhm.
connected to you, and then your other, other
Mhm.
than Marissa, your other employees, the other two, what were you looking at for them then?
So 5, the 2 is at 5, it's programmed at 5 for my first time ask.
5%?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
So that would be 2 people. Danny and I are tied to whatever the comp board are gonna do.
Okay.
And then I have the priority number 1 for,
Okay.
so that was my number 1. Number 2 is the voting equipment. And number 3 is programmed into this budget. And I know there was some discussion and I'm asking for a little flexibility in this budget. So I have programmed into this budget a new employee. And I know you don't necessarily want to hear that. I don't have a direct, so I'm coming to you asking for flexibility with that, and I don't have a direct plan. Do you like that? So I have 2 folks in my office that are, I don't know what term you want to use, but nearing the end of a useful life or something of that nature.
I don't know if that's quite put it in those.
Something of that nature. So we have a couple of people that are, on the tail end for sure. There's a lot of things that we do in our office that are once a year. We need to be thinking about succession. And if I don't have the flexibility to add someone and start training or doing that, and we don't know what that looks like yet. But if I have to ask now for a year from now, so we have programmed in here all the expenses for entry level position with the benefits.
What do
So
we-
that
what-
isn't-
what do you consider?
I can't remember what it was. What was the new one at? 50?
Is this the 50 that's?
45, something like, yeah, do you see
I
it?
I see.
It might be
50 and up.
split, so we can split between two. Here, I should be able to tell you.
It's elections administration for 50,
Yeah,
salary, regular employee
28.
clerk.
sorry, I should know.
Amanda, yeah.
Yeah, the 50, just for a general number.
That's on.
Yeah,
Page 3.
Oh, okay.
yeah, because it wasn't used before. So it's 50. It says clerk. And that's what that is. I'll tell you, we do not have a direct plan. I'm asking for
Right.
flexibility and succession planning at some
Yeah.
point.
Bench strength.
Okay?
Okay, I guess, is this something then you would come to us and then talk to us
Yeah.
before we were hiring in case?
Yeah.
We were, you know.
Yeah, and if it comes out, because it needs to come out and we still need to do that, I would have to come back to you and ask for an amendment. I mean, that's how that would work. So, sorry, I guess that doesn't mean I'm done. You guys have any specific, I mean, I'm mostly, it's employees, it's staffing, myself included, and election stuff is most of my budget. Everything else we just charge to another department or 99.
No, I get that. Okay. All right, board, do you have any questions for Jake? And Jake, I know that you heard this the other day. I am grateful for you. I call you a lot. I ask you questions. I ask your department questions a lot. And you guys are always very gracious. So
Appreciate
thank
that.
you. Thank you for your commitment. You are definitely a glue. So thank you.
And we like, I mean, what Kale said, I mean, I didn't prompt him or anything, but we try to be, it's a team. I mean, we
You
are,
do,
we
yep,
are a
yep,
unit. So we don't always all get along or agree, but
Right?
we all
No?
try to be a team.
I am also thankful, Jake,
Well,
even before my term is.
you used to be pretty hard on me, Steve. So.
Well, I used
I remember that. Here comes Steve and his folders. It better be right. He's going
No,
to the
we-
dungeon.
We go back a long way.
And again, it's my one shot task. So that's
No, I
why
get
I'm
it. Nope,
asking.
Okay, thank you. Board, if we don't have any more questions, Jake, do you want to take a quick break or do you want to go do another one and do, I think Naomi, the recorder would like to go up. Could, so could we do Naomi?
Yeah,
and
that's
then we'll
fine.
take a
Sure.
quick break? Okay.
Yeah.
Did I hear good luck? We're not that hard, are we? Good luck.
Morning, yes, you're on.
Good
Good
morning.
morning, Naomi. We are doing the recorder.
Yes. I guess I'll just start off, just dive right in, to expenses. Similar to Jake, my priority ask, is regarding my 3 clerks. So there's 5 people in the office. Myself, I have 1 deputy and I have 3 clerks. Of my 3 clerks, 1 will be in the office for almost 3 years and the other 2 have been there for 2 years. I don't want to compare to other clerks on the 2nd floor, but they are
Yeah.
on the lower end.
I know. Sorry, you got number 3 in line.
So my priority ask is that, I'm asking for 6% for them. So that would get them closer to 45,000 each.
Okay.
Not quite, just under. But that's my priority ask.
Getting them to roughly close to the 45.
Yes, to 45,000. Yep.
Okay, now I'm gonna just say this, okay, and this is nothing against you, Naomi. If we do 45, we as a board, we can't uptick it another 5 the next year. Do you get what I mean? We
Understood.
just can't, it's just,
Mhm, Absolutely.
and I guess hopefully those that are hiring are considering that. I think that this definitely needs to be a conversation with our HR.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's
I understand.
because
Yep.
we up the ante. I mean, you know what I
Yep.
mean? And so, yeah.
And can I just say one thing? I am having Renee right now review the apps that we received from the treasurer's office opening and just kind of get a consensus of what those people were making. Because a lot of those people that are applying are only making $35,000. So they're applying for jobs at 40 and receiving a significant pay raise coming here. So not always is that the case, but since we have some fresh apps, I was just going to look to see what are those people making. So we'll have that available for you later.
Thank you. And nothing against
No,
you, Naomi, because
you're fine.
it's just, it's one of those things
No,
that I get it, because, you know, obviously, with the dynamics of whether it's elected, whether it's department heads, whether it's whatever, we all kind of look across and say, okay, what's somebody else making? And I understand that. It's just that we can always find something higher. Oftentimes we can find the higher, but we don't necessarily bring up the lower. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And I value the employees too, because I also know that it causes morale issues. So
Mhm.
I hear you loud and
Absolutely,
clear,
yeah.
and Jake, you know,
Mhm.
all the departments, whether it's Michaela, you know, all those that have that where, you know, so.
I
Okay.
will say that, asking for the 6%, would be about a $7,500 increase total for 3 people, not for 1 person, but it's to be split between 3.
Okay.
Just so you know. Okay. So that's my priority ask. Do you guys have any questions, anything you want to go over specifically?
Obviously, your deputy is tied, and your deputy
She's
is
tied.
85, is
Yep.
that correct,
Mhm.
percent? Okay,
Yes.
and that's per code. And Jim, I don't know if you know this, but the deputies can be up to 85% of
That's
those
required.
loads. Yep,
Mhm.
yep.
And I will say that my deputy did not start out at 85.
Right.
She just went up to it as of last year.
Yep.
Okay.
Naomi, and regarding your imaging, I saw, I'm
Yes.
just looking at, you know, you went down significantly. Do you feel like you've,
So that's, you mean like the special reporters fund that we
yep,
have?
yep. Mhm.
Yep, so, I had been up the last 2 years because I was digitizing, some of the books in the back room.
Okay.
And so we're kind of, at a stalled point right now with that. So I don't need to have that.
Okay.
For the
All
budget.
right.
I will say for revenue, like Jake, we are not a huge,
You're more
Revenue.
than me, though.
I am more, yes.
Yeah.
More than
You tend
you.
to generate-
Yeah, I know.
You're more than us, Naomi.
I'm pure
You
expense.
it's
Yeah,
zero.
the supervisors
more
are the
than
most
us.
expensive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Big goose egg over here, so.
I will say that, the Reporters Association has been working hard for the last year in, proposing legislation, to increase the recording fees. They have not been increased in 40 years. And so we are hopeful that that will get passed this year.
Okay.
What that means for us is that if that's passed starting July 1st, it would be approximately, increased revenue to the general fund of about 100,000.
Okay,
So,
all right.
Now, wait a minute, I beg to differ.
exciting.
I believe I did generate some revenue here when we worked on this building and the courthouse.
See how, he's putting in his own plug, see how he is. When you look at like, snowmobile, okay, and obviously it's increased or whatever, is that cyclical? Is it go like every 2 or 3 years? How does that work?
So, snowmobiles and like off-road vehicles are annual renewals. Boats are every 3 years.
Okay, that's. what I
So
remember.
this year is a boat renewal year.
Okay.
And we have about 3,000 boats. What do we have for boats? Almost 3,000 boats in the county.
Wow, but I suppose we should, right?
We do, yeah.
Considering, you know, we have the largest body of water.
And I will say that, last July, our fees, our writing fees for DNR increased, to $2. Our pay is $2, per transaction.
Yay.
And then the postage went up, to $2 as well. The county gets as well, so
Oh, you do get
We get
get
that.
paid for postage,
Yeah,
so we don't
yeah.
have to, it's like.
$2
Oh,
now.
okay,
So.
all right. Okay.
Hey, we'll take it.
Your passport fees are up.
Yes, so, since I became a reporter in 2022, we started taking passport pictures. So we offer that service. That has significantly, increased the revenue for passports. I also think that one of the reasons why we're doing more is the appointment system is actually helping with that. So in the past, before COVID, before appointments, if someone wanted to apply for a passport, it may have taken them 3 or 4 trips to the courthouse to get all of their documentation before they can actually apply.
Okay.
Now what we do is we have them call ahead of time. They have to talk to an agent. They go over a checklist so that when they come for their appointment, they're prepared so we can get more people in a day to apply. So,
All right.
and we get $35 per application.
Okay, all right. Technical skills wise, what do you compare your office to when it's technical? Like, what are they having to review? Are you?
Okay, yeah. So in terms of doing like the recording and indexing and preserving of the land documents, they have to be familiar with legal documents. The ability to read, comprehend, decipher what the document is saying and then know how to put that into the system. So I would compare it to a paralegal. A lot of what we do would be comparable to paralegal skills. Mhm.
And then what is your, I'm kind of going back and forth. What do you mean by the $60,000 in regarding the real estate revenue tax? What is that? From 50 to
The-
60, obviously.
The revenue
Mhm.
transfer tax?
Is that what that is? It's
Yeah.
called real estate revenue tax.
Yes, the
yeah.
real estate revenue tax, that is home purchases.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Okay.
the revenue tax on that. And so a lot of the revenue that we take in depends on the economy and the housing economy. So it's more of a best guess
Okay.
in terms of what we'll bring in there, but
Is that a percentage of the sell price?
What was that?
Is that a percentage of the sell price of the real estate? Is that how
Yes.
that works? I
Naomi,
assume as much, but-
tell them when that was last updated. Never.
like, I don't know.
Yeah, so that's what, if you sell the house at 100, there's a schedule.
I know I've paid it,
Yeah,
but I
there's
didn't know how it
chart.
was
Yeah,
calculated.
it hasn't been up since I've been here.
Is that statewide?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, and then obviously we will be discussing electeds more tomorrow. So that's the plan anyways, so, but yeah, I don't, board, do you have any further questions for Naomi?
Nope, I don't think so.
Well, I don't think so. Thank you, Naomi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have Veterans Affairs here, and I think he's got some board members that would like to be able to be, so if we could do him, and then we are looking at taking just a quick break after that, if we do Veterans Affairs, okay? All right, so we will switch over to Veterans Affairs, and Rob, I'll let you go to the podium there.
61.
Yeah,
All right, good morning.
good.
Uh,
Sorry, I'm trying to find you. 21.
yeah, we just rolled out of our monthly Veterans Affairs Commission meeting. And if you're not familiar with my commissioners, Jody Marty and Kurt Froyen, as well as Elv and Z from Pella, are my commissioners, and they will want to share, you know, my 10 minutes of fame here. So what I'll do is just talk to my budget.
Okay.
I like to share the bottom line up front, which is this budget reflects only $1,300 more than last year's budget. It also includes $10,000 that our county gets reimbursed from the state through the Iowa Department of Veterans Affairs funding allocation. So my budget is a $100,000 budget and 1.3% increase from last year overall. Two portions of my budget, the administrative and then the direct veteran support budget. Minor adjustments under employee mileage and subsistence. I've found that with VA contracts in general, there's not a lot that I can do for visiting those veterans at West Ridge or Pleasantville or other places. That's covered. And it kind of reflects that my policy, my position, the more federal benefits that I can get for Marion County veterans, the less local assistance we have to provide at the county or the state. And I think the numbers will reflect that has been effective. I do have a bump in my office equipment and furniture, which is $1,600 more than last year. And that's because the IT department came to me and said, Rob, it's time to replace your dinosaur on your desktop. I intend to replace that with a laptop and a workstation that will make me more mobile as well to get around the county. In the direct veterans support, I've kind of squeezed some things together. Under utility payments, fuel, Steve, this is the one you asked me about last year where we broke out LP gas for some unknown reason in the past. Well, we're rolling that right into utility payments general to eliminate that line item.
Okay.
We've had a couple more transients come through the county, so I bumped the transient meals and lodging by $500. Transportation services, what I've done there is I have a driver, a volunteer, who will run vets to and from Des Moines. Now, I leverage the HERTA transportation from the VA clinic as much as possible. But when a veteran gets sedated and needs their hand held and someone to stay with them, like colonoscopy, for instance, I give a volunteer driver a gas certificate for $30 under my food and provision items instead of transportation. So I didn't see a need to break that out anymore, and that line item will go away. Of note, as a military retiree, I get TRICARE for Life health insurance from the federal government. Yet I had a line item budget of $4,900 for my county health insurance contribution. I didn't need that, or I don't. Perhaps another commissioner will, or a director will. So I scratched that from our budget. The contribution last year was $4,889, and in lieu of that, or not in lieu of that, but that is what funds an increase in my salary by $5,000. So it's kind of a wash there, scratching one item and increasing another. With that, I'd like to turn the podium, or pending your questions on the details, I'd like to turn the podium over to my chairperson of the Marion County VA, who wants to speak a little more to that budget piece. And then that's uncomfortable for me, so I'm going to slip out
Oh,
and
you're fine.
go,
Yep, I get it.
go vet or meet with some veterans.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mueller, you're welcome to come by the VA office there. My office door is one of the 3 that are wide open to the public in the courthouse. Come on in, just like many, many others do, and I'll give you the overview.
You can plan on a visit within the next few weeks. I will guarantee it.
All right, sounds good.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good morning.
Good morning.
morning.
I'm
I've got
sorry.
my, because I know you're pressed for time.
Oh, you're
So
fine.
in the essence of time, I'm gonna keep this up here, just so you know that's what that is.
Okay.
And I'm gonna speak just very briefly. Kurt's been the one that's been able to go out and get kind of the information, but one of the things that I will bring up is, Rob talked about the increase in federal benefits benefit us because that's a decrease in the local benefits. And we've had an increase of about $164,000 per month over the last year of federal benefits coming into the veterans from Marion County. So that's pretty significant, really, when you think about adding that $165,000 a month. We can help reduce the local resources that are going out for our veterans. So, and then Rob talked a little bit about taking that healthcare benefit off. He just doesn't need it. So that may be a way to get him the increase that he needs. And Kurt will talk specifically a little bit more about everything that he's done. I know you know it. I guess we're just going to talk it. But Kurt's also going to talk a little bit. Ms. Yonner, I heard you talking about, we talk about the other surrounding counties or whatever, and what their person is making. we don't necessarily go, what's the other counties, maybe they're making less, so. But Kurt is gonna talk to Jasper County because they're kind of our equivalent at this point in time, so.
Thank you. What I want to say, Jim, good luck. Don't go unless you set up an appointment.
Okay.
Because things are not the way they were a couple of years ago. You cannot
see
get
it.
in to see this guy. There is someone there all the time. And that speaks to this increase of $165,000 every single month. I know that from a personal experience, that when a veteran comes in to see Rob, the first thing he asks him is, are you getting all of the federal benefits that you have coming to you? And that increase saves this county a lot of money to see that money come in. When we hired this guy, we didn't just hit a home run. We got a grand slam. I can tell you that. He's exceptional, and realize I know he's asking for a $5,000 raise. Basically, it amounts to about 150 when you consider the fact that he's saving the county $4,500 or almost $4,800 in insurance costs. I did check, because there is an opening in Jasper County. I thought for a VSO, I thought I'd check to see what are similar about Jasper County and Marion County. And I do have these figures for you. I'll leave them with you when they go. But we are serving right now 715 veterans on disability payments of some sort. Jasper County is serving 721. So it's basically the same. Jasper County has a full-time VSO and a part-time VSO. The part-time VSO is currently paid $21,000, and they have advertised for a new VSO to replace this new VSO. And the advertised salary is between $54,600 and $68,100. I visited with Dick Simons, the not public affairs, but the human resources officer. And I asked him to pay someone $54,600, which is about $200 less than what Rob is asking for. What would you expect? And this is a quote, guys. I asked him if I could quote him. We would be paying $54,600 for someone, for example, who was a plumber, who served in the military with no administrative experience or no VS experience at all of any kind. I asked him, what would you pay someone who had 18 months of experience as a VSO and already had their PIV card? He said, we'd probably start them about $65,000. Well, Rob has that 18 months. He has the PIV, and he could drive 15 minutes more one way each day and be paid $10,000 more a year than what he's asking, and work with an assistant paying $21,000, working with 6 more veterans than what Rob is working with.
Right.
Rob doesn't want to leave this position, I can tell you that. I'm just saying, this is what he's worth. And so I think when you think that we have increased the amount of money coming in by 13%, and even with Rob's requested increase of $5,000, the cost to the county and our entire budget is 1.2% increase. So to me, it seems like a very, very reasonable request. And I would think that also we have to think about in the years going forward, we need to keep in mind that we need to keep this individual and that he is doing a tremendous job. I can just tell you I'm commander of the American Legion Post, so I have an opportunity to visit with veterans on a regular basis. And I hear nothing but praise. This guy is truly a gem. and I appreciate your time.
No, thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate
Are there
that.
any questions that you might
The,
have?
the money that we receive from the feds, where does, where does that funnel to? How do, who disperses that? How's,
They're saying the benefits in which the veterans receive.
yeah,
He's helping them receive them, so we. don't
okay,
receive
okay.
it.
So
It's
there's
just-
actually no cash.
That's right.
Yeah.
check.
But
Okay,
what it does is as that money increases, in other words, if we, when we have the federal government, it takes care of the needs of these veterans, it means that the county doesn't have to.
well, I know from experiences that, it's very difficult dealing with the feds on Veterans Affairs.
Believe me, I know what you mean.
That's-
Yes, I know.
With my
Now-
with my grandson and everything, so I know that he tries hard. I know for a fact, because I've asked him questions.
Yeah. No,
So-
he is exceptional. And what is amazing to me is his ability to learn and adapt. It's just incredible what he's been able to do in the time he's been here. But I think that the other thing that Rob does not do is he doesn't wait for someone to come in. I think it's really important that we have the young men and women who are leaving the military here in Marion County. And he doesn't wait for them to come in to see what help they might be able to get. When he finds out that, he contacts them, that invites them to come in.
Yeah, he's very proactive. I agree.
Extremely, extremely. Again,
Can you tell us, how many hours a week does he work currently? Do we know?
well,
Is he working 40? Is he is working?
I
Okay.
think it's 40 hours,
Okay, all right.
which is,
One of the other things that happens.
Hang on, Jody, just a second, so the public can hear you.
How are you?
good.
Yes, sorry. Thanks.
nice seeing
Yeah,
you.
so one of the things that, about Rob is we've got these counties that are around Wapello. Wapello's one of them. Boy, I can't remember the other one.
Well, areas like
And-
Davis County and
yeah,
Centerville. things like
And they're
that.
just a lower, because they're, I'm not gonna say because they're the lower tier, but they just have their, less population across the board. So obviously there's, fewer veterans in those counties because there's less people in those counties. And so they only, are allowed a part-time VSO. And what happens is because we have the CBOC. So those veterans will swing up to the CBOC because that's closer than Des Moines. And then like, oh, well, we know Marion County has a full-time VSO. So let's just swing by the courthouse and see Rob. And so what happens is Rob ends up assisting
Others
veterans
as well.
outside of Marion County because we have the CBOC. I'm glad we have the CBOC, but that's another thing that,
Yeah.
so, that I think on the papers that we have are, 715 plus, because we do have some from those, southern tiered counties that come up to the CBOC and then swing in because they know he's here.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
What's a CBOC?
It's the clinic. It's the
Okay.
Veterans Clinic.
I
Community-based
Yeah, me
outpatient
too.
clinic. I
Yeah,
had to
okay,
think for
all
a
right.
minute.
So here's my
Community-based
suggestion.
outpatient
When they
clinic.
took away
Here's my
the,
suggestion.
When they took away
the
the,
VA.
yeah,
Yeah.
so when they took away the VA and a lot of the stuff for the C, they put clinics,
Gotcha.
community-based clinics out in several areas across
Gotcha.
the state.
I've never had to deal with a CBOC.
CBOC, yeah.
Now I know what it is.
Good for
Yeah.
you.
Absolutely.
just so make sure that the board understands and Jim is new. It generally goes by population, correct? On how many, so since we're in the 30,000 population, a minimum of, 30 hours, and he works more than that, obviously. But he would only be required to do 30 hours if that's what the commission chose to do, so,
Gotcha.
for him, so, but yeah. I do understand the ask, we have been a little bit of a struggle. I mean, I don't know that I can give him the full 10%. And I think as a board, we'll discuss that more tomorrow.
Yeah,
But,
you got a long day tomorrow. It
yeah,
sounds like, well,
yeah,
somebody's
yeah.
got a long day
Okay.
tomorrow. I think it's this guy sitting over
Yeah.
here, but, one of the, things that I will bring up as well, so we've got a fairly large, we mean Iowa Army National Guard's got a fairly large, deployment coming up, here this summer. So you may not see it here in 25, right? But we will come back. It's about 1,800 soldiers, in between 1,900 soldiers deploying to Iraq and Syria. And some of those soldiers live in Marion County. And so you probably won't see that influx in 25 because we'll be gone. But as we come back in 26, mid 26, you end of 26 into 27, Marion County may see more of an influx of veterans that have just returned from a combat deployment.
If they're not in Gaza.
Yeah, well, if it does, yeah, if it doesn't shift in the next 4 months. Yeah, so just FYI, kind of like Kurt said, you know, and like I said, we understand budgets. We think that Rob deserves it.
Right.
I think you think Rob deserves it,
Yeah.
but we understand the budget piece of that. But I
If
will
we
let you
could
know
give
that.
every employee,
absolutely.
right? And that's
Yes,
where the
ma'am.
struggle is, really is.
Yes, ma'am.
So, but I mean.
What I think is amazing is that we're asking for 1% increase. I hope that all of the other commissions and everything else in the county is only asking for 1% as well. I hope that works out well. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
guys. Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you for serving.
Yeah.
So
It is an
appreciate
honor
you
to
guys.
serve this.
Yeah, yes. Thank you, Kurt. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Have a nice day. You too. Good luck. Wouldn't want your job.
Thank you. With that, we're going, I would like to take a break. Can I entertain a motion to adjourn to take a break for 10 minutes?
I make a motion, we take a 10-minute break.
I'll support.
McCombs,
Aye.
Mueller,
Aye.
Johnner,
Aye.
reconvene February 5.
Entertain a motion to reconvene the session.
So moved.
I'll support that.
Mueller,
Yes.
Johnner.
Aye.
McCombs.
Aye.
Oh, look,
Wow.
information. Okay. What number are you?
63. 63.
Good number.
She does.
Good.
You got
know
first
what?
choice,
I
didn't you?
can,
No, it was just assigned to me. But it's easy to remember because it's the county's number. We're County
Alright, is that
63.
done?
We're
I'll
we're
be able to
Department
remember now,
63.
okay, Miss Carla.
Well, first off, thank you everyone for the support you've given us and your increased activity level with our department. We certainly appreciate that. The Development Commission is a unique part of county government. Our focus, we're probably one of the few departments really focused on helping you increase your revenue because the things we do, such as housing and tourism, they generate taxes and generate increased taxes. So it's really been an exercise and a priority of the Marion County Board of Supervisors for nearly 30 years, actually 35 years, to invest money in economic development, to grow our economy so that we can provide the services and things that we want to be a healthy, thriving economy. So we kind of work in economic development in three buckets. We work about spaces, we work about attracting businesses and growing businesses, and then we work with our people and developing people. So all of our programs are around those areas. You can see some of the special projects we had over this last year. The implementation of the housing study that was released in late 2024. So we've been working with developers and communities to make sure they're utilizing that information. The rollout of our strategic plan and our video. I would love some time to show that at a Board of Supervisors meeting. I think it was a really great project to explain why we are progress driven and our new brand strategy. We just received and start work on a digital passport for soft trails. We're in the process of completing a National Park Service application for trails. We did complete an EPA one that we still have not heard back from for trails. So doing a lot of grant work. This year, we implemented a new thing with our businesses called the Pulse Survey that we're doing quarterly. It's a quick in and out survey so we get an idea of what's happening on our business environment. We also share that with the businesses that are participating. We're getting good participation. We certainly want to grow that, but that's really a wonderful opportunity. And then we do our traditional programs like we always do, the travel guide, the top 10 under 40, the leadership Red Rock program, which this year we switched to afternoon, which has been a good change. We have the Best of Red Rock, which we just held. So doing a lot of things to help grow and develop that. If you think of a bathtub, we're about the water in the bathtub, the wealth in the county, the inflows and the outflows, stopping those outflows, increasing the inflows. We also work as part of our job to connect Marion County to many state and regional organizations. And we feel that's important because we're shaping the programs at the state and regional level. We're connecting both our businesses and communities to those programs so they can take advantage of that. You can see our commissioners listed there as well as our staff. Next year is a very exciting year. We've got a lot on our plate, but I would say the biggest bulk is really working on the talent attraction module of our strategic plan, building that out, developing new connections with all the people within Marion County that are working on talent attraction to understand how we can get more residents here, and what we need to do to retain the residents we have. So that's probably the primary focus of next year. Right now, we are in the middle. You'll look under operations. I put a tentative schedule that I've kind of worked over. We're in transition, as you know. Last year, you provided us funding so that we could have two of us working this last year. In that transition, since I've been here for nearly 30 years and will be retiring at the end of April. So we're still in that transition period. As we look to our strategic plan and staffing of the Development Commission, what we're recommending for this budget is a two-person department, one person being the director, mostly focused on the business development, the operations, the infrastructure kind of things, and a second position that would be focused on the talent and tourism attraction more with a marketing focus. Because one of the things we knew when we had the International Economic Development Council, they said we need to tell our story better. And so part of that progress-driven approach is to, and why we did the video is to try to tell our story better, to try to do more tools that we can get out there on social media to compete for talent, because talent is going to be one of the most important things rural counties can attract and keep and retain. So that's a little bit about our staff transition. You'll see on the very back page, I did an analysis of, it's a little hard to look in our budget currently for this year to know what Christopher and I really make, because we had to put in, for whatever reason, they make you put in the sick leave and vacation buyout into my salary line item. So it looks like I'm making 100,000, but I'm not. That's that buyout. So my real salary is just over 72,000. And Christopher's salary was plugged in there for 9 months. So if you look at what his annual salary is at his current level, it's 70,000. So as we're looking at this new rearrangement of staff job descriptions, what we're proposing is for the director's salary at 89,000 and the marketing talent and tourism coordinator at 60,000, which if you add the two buckets up is basically a 4% increase over where we are this year into next year. It just, the numbers look a little funny if you just look at the budget. So I apologize for that, but that's just kind of how those COA line items have to work. The other thing I will prepare to you, we will more than likely be coming in for a budget amendment, not for Fund 1, but for Fund 2. When I budgeted last year, I did not think about budgeting for a family health insurance plan and for the new assistant director. And so our line item on line 2 is slightly below what we need. So we will more than likely be coming in for a budget amendment for that particular item, but it's not a Fund 1, it's a Fund 2 item.
Couple different things, Carla. How did you come up with the 89,000? Just out of curiosity.
Sure. If you look at the ISAC average, and most of those counties are quite smaller than we are, that's 78,000. If you look at professional developers of Iowa who are economic developers, it's 101. But if you're looking at a peer, we pulled out, it was kind of funny, they pulled out Jasper County, we pulled out Jasper County. They're another county that has a county economic developer. Their economic developers at 95. So, and when we had UNI, they did some additional analysis with us for through PDI of economic development organizations our size. And that ranges anywhere from 95 to 120 if you're looking with somebody who's experienced. So we felt like the 89 was both trying to live within an increase within our budget so that we're not necessarily drastically increasing the percentage of total salary money that we're using. And that's why indeed we have put the tourism coordinator position at 60,000 is to allow for that capacity to pay our director. And why that's critical, quite honestly, is Marion County has had the benefit over the last 30 years of my service The position has never in 30 years marketed adjusted. And the position, because it was a one-person department, has been held to the 1 or 2% increase, even though out in the world, increases in Marion County salaries have increased some years by 15%, 8%, and we've been at that slow, low percent. Unlike many of the other department positions that have turned over, and amazingly what happens is that this person hired doesn't make less than the person who left. They usually make that much or more, and that's happened numerous times over the 30 years. And this position just needs to market adjust to a point where you can keep somebody, because otherwise you have to be acceptable to the fact that this position will rotate. And if you've seen some of our chambers and economic development positions, when that position rotates, there is so much knowledge that needs to be attained to this position that there is no progress made, because they're constantly in a state of trying to figure out what to do instead of a state of doing things. When you figure you have one person who has to know about childcare, housing, tourism, infrastructure, business trends, working with businesses exiting, working with startup businesses, there is a breadth of knowledge that not just the average person on the street can attain that type of knowledge.
Get that. You probably heard my spiel this week, and it is a little bit challenging. It's a couple different things. Just, obviously, first off, it doesn't hurt to ask, right? And it does, but we as the board will just have to review that and whether
I would not be doing my job correctly
you didn't ask.
if
That's
I
right.
did. I'm not asking, I'm providing you information that hopefully you can make an informed decision. Because if I do not provide you that information, I am not doing my job.
Right, yep, no. And this is the hard part, because there's others out there that would say they would give that data and they could show to that too.
Mhm.
And so this is the struggle. I mean, this is the hard part of the job.
Mhm.
That's just
Mhm.
being frank. I mean, that is. So we as a board will have to discuss what we're willing to feeling comfortable about putting a max, because ultimately when that position is hired, one of us will probably most likely be involved
Mhm. That's
with
the
that.
plan
Yep,
that
yep,
we've
yep.
talked with the commission yesterday, and kind of the plan, we assume that one or two of you would want to be involved, as well as one of the chairs or one of the commissioners, one or two of them, and similar what we did last time when we were hiring for an assistant director. It's also helpful too to have one or two people that are economic development experts, because neither you as the board or our commissioners are necessarily people who do economic development every day. So it was really helpful last time. For instance, we had Alex from the Des Moines Partnership, who has been in Altoona and been in other locations, west, I think he was DCG area over there before he came to the partnership. Somebody who's actually done the job
Yeah.
every day is really helpful on that review board as well.
Yeah. So as always, Carla, we appreciate you. You do a good job, and I appreciate the extra information. We're just gonna have to make, the decision tomorrow. So board definitely be thinking about that, because this is a position that we necessarily can't go do like a wage salary before, get all that done before we're looking at. I mean, she's provided us some information. It's just how we want to proceed.
Yeah,
with
and I can
that.
tell
Yeah.
you, when we had, and I can give you James's information about our population category. They broke down the PDI information by population, and we were the lowest paid of all the people in our population category. I can provide you that if you'd like that as well. But
And then
I-
also on that marketing type person, I mean, were you looking at that as a max? I mean, could it be up to, are you looking, are you just looking at trying to start somebody out at 60,000?
It'll depend, obviously, like we did last time with Christopher. We put a price range, or we put a salary range. It'll depend on the person we're hiring, whether we feel like that person has all the skills and talent, then they would be at the higher part of that range. If the person is mid-level, mid part of that range, and certainly if they're not as experienced, obviously not knowing what applicants you would get for that price range. We don't know, where that'll be, but 60,000 we thought was a good, not as high as my commission, I can tell you, would like me to have put in there. My commission felt like it should be 70 or 75. my commission thought we should ask more for the director's position. So I have tried to negotiate with them where we're at to somewhere where I felt like I could feel like we were using what we're paying now for salary and transition it to a reasonable amount for retention, because I know personally, rehiring a marketing person, the amount that they have to know versus the amount a director has to know is significantly different. A marketing person can rock into a marketing situation. I could go somewhere and design for somebody, and in a short period of time, I could understand their brand, I could understand their verbiage, I could market. But to do economic development work and work with businesses, startup and doing all the highway projects and all the economic impact studies and all the things that the director does, to go find that person is much more difficult. And that's why we felt like the salary for that position needs to be at a level so we're not having a revolving door. And that if we had to have a revolving door, it was much easier to do that with the marketing person than to do that with the director. And that's why we broke those, the positions went from being very similar to being very drastic. It's taking that capacity and using it in the smartest way we knew to build long-term sustainability.
Okay, appreciate that. Board, do you have any further questions for
Nope.
Carla?
Thank you, Carla.
Well, thank
Thank
you. And I'd encourage you all to continue to come to our events. We have another one February 24th. That will be the top 10 under 40, where we'll be honoring some young professionals, and is absolutely the best event to come to see some of these great young professionals, hear their stories. And we're excited to do that. I thank you for coming for the Best of Red Rock. And like I said, we'll be putting the video out on our new YouTube channel that we're creating, and certainly would love the opportunity to show that at a future Board of Supervisors meeting, because I think it's a good piece for people to feel very proud about our county.
Nope, I agree. Appreciate it. No, thank you.
That was very well done. I
Yes.
enjoyed that greatly.
Yep. I
Yeah,
did.
we really appreciated Bing Bang, and they're working with us. They were very dedicated. They're both, the owners of Bing Bang are originally from Marion County. They still live here. So
Right.
it was a great work of love on their part too, to make sure that they were showing the county in a great way. And thank you to also Andrew DeHaan, our former employee, who gave us use of drone video, and a lot of other folks that gave us video. Nicole helped us find some skydiving video. And so all the folks that helped were just tremendous. And, getting that collaboration is so important in the county. And I think we're at a point both with what we're working on with trails, what we're working on with housing, and now hopefully workforce. Being able to do that makes me very proud of the position we're in today versus where we have been over the years. And that should make you exciting too, people working together.
All right, nope, that's great. No, it was very good video, and I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody collaborating to be able to get that, because it was very well done. So, thank you, Miss Carla.
Thank you.
I lost my sheet.
Well, last
obviously.
but not least.
Oh,
Right, I guess
no.
we have EMA, but I don't know where my other sheet is, but
I guess.
Jeff is gonna be last. He had a, I don't even know what I had a sheet. I was checking off everybody. Did you-
I'm number 10. I'm
You're number
department
10. All right.
Yeah,
Number
well, you
10,
had
and
it
then
right
number
there on
7
the
be
top.
after you. so.
I know. I just, oh, well, it's okay.
So my budget went
She's
down
going
by
fast.
just under 3.5%. I've been sitting here listening to this for 3 days. I'm like, just ready to be done. I kind of provided you with an overall, this was probably more for Jim. Obviously, I'm going to be finishing year 24. So,
Only, you've got a long ways to go then.
Carla's been here, Carrie has been here with us, it's about a little over a year. Kind of provided you with some of the numbers for this year versus the last few years. Obviously, I mean, we kept hearing numbers were going down. The hard part is that growth is getting restricted, being cut, but our numbers are not going down. So, we did 174 building permits of various types, 6 rezonings. We had 6 special use permits, 4 variances, 3 site plans. We've got a major subdivision underway. We had 73 land divisions, so we continue to see land splits. Obviously, you're gonna see, and Jake's gonna love me in the next few months, where I think in March, our zoning commission has 4 petitions coming before them. So we do have a lot of stuff going on in the county. Code enforcement never ends. Steve's been, involved in this through the years. And that's never an easy task. That takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of visits. Rarely do we get them cleaned up in one. We've worked, we've got 10 that have either been cleaned up and closed or unfounded. This year, we've got 5 active cases. One's currently in the court process. We do a lot to work with the property owners before we get to the court process, but this is one that Ross, we've been working with, and unfortunately, it took moving on to the court process to get anywhere with that one, I kind of outlined the other duties as assigned in the zoning office that kind of ties to my salary that have come through the years of the other duties as assigned without pay. So, I outlined some of those. Again, the overall budget decreased by 3.4%. Last year on June 30th, there was still $52,479 left in the zoning budget. This year, because we allotted the entire 50,000 for the comprehensive plan, and we'll probably only pay out about 20 to 25,000 of that. There'll still be some left, half of that'll be left. I did decrease it down to 30,000 for next year, and then once the comprehensive plans, then that obviously line item will go to 0 at that point. The only other large line item I have is the planning and management. And as you can see that I reduced it last year. We spend less and less of that. We have it allotted that would be for outside attorney type use. Typically that's after I've talked with Jared or Ross and they say, yes, please get outside counsel. This is a, much more complex, outside of their area of expertise. We also, couple things, we switched to using MIPA through and so that's been a cost savings. We did outline a contract with them if we'd have big projects, which we do have a couple big ones that we may utilize that, but their fee is, I believe, around the $85, where if you are with outside counsel or a consultant, you're at the $180 to $240 an hour range. So, the other thing that compiles into that is my years of experience. I have to rely on outside discussion less and less because I've usually, I've handled it have a lot of years of experience that we don't rely on that outside counsel. So I did, after talking with Steve, we allotted a new line item that's got $2,000 in it. That is something that would be at the discretion. Those are, I did some checking with other counties as far as code enforcement, cleanups, how do you work with people? One county, and I hate to get into a lot of detail, but this would be if we're working with a project and basically we have, the only thing that's keeping us from compliance is they can't afford the tipping fees at the landfill. That would give us the ability to close out a project, a cleanup project by, helping them out. That would obviously be a one-time fee and we would set a limit. I've talked with Ross about this and he feels it would be a potential good ad, and so did Steve. I mean, if we can clean it up I think the tipping fee when I checked at the landfill for 1 ton is $42. So this wouldn't be a big, and it obviously would be a one-time, we're not gonna have people coming back every year. They let their place get in a mess because they want us to pay to clean up. That wouldn't be the
Exactly.
intent. But, it's something to, we're always looking to try and work. As we tell people, we're here to work with you. Nobody wins when we go to court, when we have to take these to court. Ross spends a lot of hours. I spend a lot of hours. So that's our intent, is to try and work with that. So, yeah.
Awesome. No, I appreciate it. And you put yourself in for 5, what did you put?
I did put in 5 for both Carrie and I. Like I said, as I was preparing the budget and after we had our meeting and I looked at other zoning administrators, talked with my board supervisor appointee, and obviously Carla elated too. Carla and I have both been long-term employees, that have always fallen under the Board of Supervisors where you only ever got the 1, 2, 3%. As a department head, if I were to leave, I mean, I've fallen more in line with the second in commands than I am a department head at this point, because we've had a lot of turnover, new seconds and, and so mine has fallen way behind. We know that, and it came up a little bit last year. I mean, obviously Keisha and I, you had a lot of discussions about it. To have brought it up where in line where it should have been, would have been much more than that request last year. So, and again, I get tasked with a lot of other duties as assigned that don't have really any compensation for them. So that makes the margin even greater. And I do have to thank you as a board for allowing me finally, after 15 years of being a one-person department, to allow me to hire somebody, get Carrie in, get her trained. She came with 7 years of previous experience, and that was very beneficial. I've learned over the past year how great that was. I didn't have to teach somebody zoning from the ground up. Like, she had the basic zoning knowledge. So we've worked on projects, updating forms, scanning old documents. We organized all the subdivision files, all the things that I never had time to keep, to get ahead of. And we're still working on projects. She's scanning in documents. I don't any longer have to work on all the phone calls and all the traffic in the office. So yeah, none of the, I guess no 2 days or no day in our office is ever the same. We don't know what's coming at us next and how fast it's coming. A lot of times we're dealing with multiple projects and multiple phone calls and trying to juggle it all. And if you're familiar with the zoning world, there's no black and white, cut and dry. It's not following, there's one, list of criteria you do for each project. It's a matter of working with the public. We don't know if a building permit's gonna take a half hour or 6 months. We've had them, we answer question after question after question. We've had land divisions and rezonings take 5 years. So, I mean, there's just not a black and white. We have to, we do our best to, I guess this will be my last thing, many days, multiple projects, questions. The public wants, public service is important. They want a question, an answer as quick as they can. So many times, based on the project and the ordinance, we don't have the ability to give them the answer they want. So, but we certainly work to look through the ordinance, try and figure out a reasonable, is there a way to accommodate their request? And if there's not, then we have to work through what's the next step to, see if we can figure that out. So.
No, I appreciate that. As always, Missy, we appreciate you. Yeah, you do a good job. So, you're very thorough and I appreciate that. So, board, do you have any other questions for Missy? Missy, you kind of you've heard what I've said, so we will discuss this tomorrow. But
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Missy.
Thank you, Missy.
Last but not least is Mr. Anderson, EMA.
That one's easy. There's
It's
nothing in
not,
here.
yeah, it's actually department, comes out of 99, right?
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Please come on the microphone.
I'm sorry.
Emily's gonna speak.
You,
Right.
So you're doing the presentation?
Good morning. I just want to see if she was still awake.
She's thanking her boss right now.
Yeah. I'm not gonna do that
I mean,
to her.
I don't know that you is not seeing her online. She's a little shade of red.
Oh. All
I
right.
like the sweatshirt. No, it's all good.
For the EMA budget. I'll hit the high points and then we'll go over any questions you have. Wages were computed at 3%. I would draw your attention to the budget form that I sent. I think the first one is the expense. Sorry.
The revenue? You have the revenue.
Yeah, first one's the revenue.
Hey, Jeff, can I stop?
Yep.
Sorry. Are you on Department 12 or what department are you on?
7070.
So you're doing EMA?
Yep.
Maybe just give, like, you do a separate entire budget process. Maybe just give an overview of that process if Jim hasn't been part of.
Okay.
Okay, because I mean, it's kind of like this. You do a completely separate budget through the state. We can track it through, we do the bills and things, and then you're gonna ask for a county contribution. Maybe just give a little bit of that project just as a basis.
Sure.
Is that
Yeah.
okay? Because there isn't anything in the book.
Right.
Sorry.
Sorry, Jim.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Give me
That's very,
perspective.
yeah, very
Yep.
good. Yep. Thanks, Jake.
So what you're looking at is the Department 70 Emergency Management budget form. Jim, this one's different. I think there's a few, are there others that enter their budgets directly into the state portal?
EMA, 911, and assessor.
Yep, so I got two of the three.
Well, and all the townships and all that, but that's not part of it.
So what you're looking at is the budget that has been proposed. It will be published next Friday in the paper. The Emergency Management Commission will meet on the 26th of February to contemplate this budget, okay?
Okay.
So the way this works is the commission will, I gotta choose my words carefully, approve or disapprove a budget. And then it comes to you, to the Board of Supervisors for funding.
Okay.
The terminology that Jake and I use frequently is the county contribution. That is the funding requested from you that funds that operation.
Sure.
And Jeff
The-
has his own, it's its own fund balance. So like
Yeah.
EMA has its own fund balance. You see it on the month-end reports. Any outside revenues or anything stays there. Jumping ahead to 911, 911 has the same thing. Assessor has their completely separate thing. They have their own levy, so it's not the same, but that's the principle. So this is outside fund. The county contribution would be the only thing
And
that
this
he'll
is
get
the,
to.
and this, what I'm looking at here is the total, not just the county share, or this is the county
That
share.
is the entire budget. That is the
entire
total.
budget, yeah.
Helps me put it in perspective.
On page 1, Jim, I believe it's line number 2 is the county contribution to the far right.
Gotcha.
You'll see that it is significantly higher this year. And we'll get into that when we get into the budget. There's two primary drivers of that. Jake mentioned it, 911. I didn't prepare anything because there's no county ask. That is 100%, currently 100% funded by the $1 per month that you pay on your surcharge, landline and wireless surcharge. So that is currently all of the 911 activities are funded through that. So I didn't prepare anything for you. That board, that 911 board also meets on the 26th. Emily and I have prepared a budget and it will be published next Friday as well.
So just a real quick question on
Yep.
that, not to go off on a rabbit hole, but that's dollars to charge for landline. Are you seeing that balance drop significantly? Because everybody's going to cell phones. I know personally,
Yes.
I don't have a landline anymore.
Yes.
So at some point, that could be, in theory, a cost.
I
If
think they're
not-
talking
Cell
about
phone-
that already.
Does cell phones, though, do you have to pay?
You currently pay $1 for a cell phone per
Oh,
month
so it's
and
month.
$1 for a landline.
All right, gotcha.
But they're both, if you look at the trend lines, they're both decreasing.
You used to have two. You used to have a cell
Mhm.
phone and a landline. Now everybody's getting rid of their landline.
And I think prior to COVID, people had a lot of multiple devices.
Right.
And because of all that, they've shut some of them off. So we are seeing a decrease.
Yep.
The idea that at some point that won't sustain itself is a real
Right.
issue.
Sure.
There's currently legislation, there's a bill that's been floated by the state, because currently the state is, by 2026, the state will be unable to pay. So let me back up, Jim. Wireline, so your landline revenue comes directly to us. We keep 100% of it. Wireless revenues, surcharges are all submitted to the state. The state carves off 40% and keeps to run the 911 infrastructure. They split through this convoluted formula, that 60% comes back to the local service boards. That's the revenue that we're talking about. There's currently a bill that's been floated by the state that will reduce that by 14%. So for us, for our board, that's based on last year's revenues. That's a $25,000 cut, just boom, gone. So that's gonna hurt. We're watching it closely. I sent it to Keisha last week. We have had a conference call with the state last week. Significant amount of pushback from the locals. Nobody's happy. I think somebody will probably make an amendment to the bill that tries to take care of the local service boards, but as was pointed out, the governor has line item veto power, so she did not want, part of what the locals wanted was, fine, the state needs to take more money to run. We all have a vested interest in keeping the network alive. But this bill, the way it's written, comes with no increase in the monthly surcharge from $1 to $1.20. This comes
Right.
at the expense of the local service boards. Okay. Excuse me. Let's go to page 2 of that, the expenditure sheet.
The sheet, what are we looking at? Is this one? Okay.
It's clear down there.
Oh, okay, sorry, all right.
That's 204.
Yep, 204.
Okay.
So like I said, salaries are computed at 3%. So those are relatively the same. Increase the fuel line, that's gasoline, to 6,000 because we are frequently operating 2 vehicles now. Vehicle expense is oil changes. That line is, budgetarily speaking, is relatively close to where it has been. Operationally, it's been way significantly higher. Office supply is relatively the same. Uniforms, the safety is the ICAP safety grant, so it's money in, money out, so net neutral. Hazmat still at 50,000. So really, there's no significant increases in there until we get down to vehicle purchase. I'm never gonna say it again because I said it 2 years ago. I've purchased my last vehicle here. It's not been the case. We had an accident with the sign truck last year, and we're having some mechanical problems with the Tahoe. Frankly speaking, we've got two mechanics that have said if we keep the vehicle, we're going to have to put a motor in it. And I really don't want to do that.
How many miles are on it?
And it's a 2016, so. The intention, Jim, when we bought the second vehicle being the pickup last year, was we would keep the Tahoe. The way I jinxed us, cursed us by saying that out loud, that's the last vehicle. Shortly thereafter, we started experiencing flashing service engine soon check lights. We put, just for example, last fiscal year, we spent $13,280 on vehicle repair when we budgeted like 3,000. Currently this year, we're at 2,559. So I put in a replacement vehicle. The line after that is the VERF, the Vehicle and Equipment Replacement Fund. So I had a philosophical conversation with Keisha and asked her from her point of view as a board of supervisor, what her preference was. The way we've been going the last number of years is keep the fund balance really low. But then when we have these asks, we start doing this over time. If you jump to that last sheet, the one that's sitting kind of in the landscape form.
Oh, this one, right?
So what we did is we created Emily's favorite acronym, VERF. It's the Vehicle and Equipment Replacement Fund. And what I did was I threw anything in there that was $5,000 or more, or anything like, for example, the last ones are radios. That very last line is portable radios that are $3,000 a piece, but they were all purchased together. So in theory, they'll all be replaced together. That brings, when you group it that way, that's $45,000. So I included them, just so they're in there. This would be year one of this. And the lower right, you can see the annual contribution this year, 38,000. So we went ahead and published it this way. We can decrease without reposting and going through the process again, or we can leave it in there. It was a little alarming to me when we listed all the equipment, like, this is probably the right thing to do, although it's painful when you start it to look at the annual contribution. With that, I'll yield to any questions that you might have.
So Jeff, your county contribution, okay, obviously it's going up. Can
Yep.
you, okay, from 225 to 390, and if you've got this fund balance, this annual contribution.
It's just
No.
going up to
No.
250, from
Yeah.
225 to 250.
Oh, propose, sorry,
Yes,
I was
yes.
looking at, sorry, okay. All right, you guys all do it a little bit different, sorry, I'm
Don't
looking,
put this one on me.
yeah.
This is state form.
The state form is different than what we're, so, sorry, I just went to the, okay, so.
Not, Keisha, I think you were right.
I think you
That's
were
right,
too.
2039.
Yeah. Emily, don't look at the spreadsheet, because it's not, there was a line in the spreadsheet that
So-
was not included yet.
Where's
I
this
recall
at? Where you at?
Okay, so I'm looking at this right here, county contribution.
Yep.
On
Okay.
the
we
far
went-
right,
yeah,
390,000.
250 down to 225, and now we're gonna go to 390.
Yep.
Explain to me what, because the annual contribution of these expenditures would be 39. Where's the difference coming in at? What am I missing here?
Two primary line items, one being the replacement of the vehicle and then the VERF totaling
Okay, so you're saying.
totaling
getting that-
95,000 right there, just those two line items.
And the hazmat contract, there's a $20,000 increase. Is that right? From estimated
We've
to actual?
actually budgeted last year 60,000, Jim.
Okay.
So what we're showing is we're expecting to be 30,000 being in actual expenses this year.
Okay,
We're projecting to be 30,000 under what we budgeted.
okay.
But actually, in actuality, the budget has remained the same since we created the team in 2013.
Okay.
We're just finding new ways to be more efficient with the money, so it doesn't have to increase every year.
So okay, so
I have the wrong number. Go ahead.
I am. How much is the vehicle gonna cost?
So cost of a Tahoe, I'm gonna give you some numbers here, 57,595. Trade value of our existing one of 8,700. So that makes it a net 48,895.
So what I'm just saying is when I'm subtracting, I'm just trying to get where you're getting your 390. I'm just trying to figure out, I'm trying to add it all up, I guess, and then we're going. Because if I take off the 390 minus the 40,000 for the expense line item, because we've got to include that, but are we?
Oh, Keisha, I understand where you're going now. I would draw your attention to page 104. Top right corner. Look at that, fund balance.
Minus 17, so
Yep.
you've definitely spent,
Negative.
you're already.
So our fund balance the last few
Yeah.
years has been going lower, and if we, in order to not,
Okay, I get what
we're
you're saying.
closing the gap on that, is what I'm getting at.
Okay. So then that would put you in the line item for when would you, this vehicle, are you looking at 10 year, how long are you looking at? vehicles?
So what I put in for these, for the pickup and the Tahoe was 8 years. Let me verify that. Yes, I
Yeah,
put them
yeah.
in there at,
2034, you'd look at, and then 2042, is that right? Go to-
2032 and 2040, assuming that we would move ahead with replacing.
8 years would be 2034, and then 8 years again would be 2042. Okay, yeah, all right.
And obviously, I'm not gonna be here, but if you get out there in that window of time and the mileage is lower and would not run them as hard, I think you would prolong that. Like I said, we intended to run the Tahoe for a few more years, but it had other things in mind.
Okay.
Brad,
And Keisha, I'll also point out that on the expense side, so going back to the 390,
Mhm.
or sorry, going back to the total expenditures, we included the VERF expenditure of 40,000. We're not actually gonna spend that,
in the 400,000 total.
but it is shown in the expense. But
And then on these radios and
Yep.
all that, is there any way that, I mean, I know we have lots of radios in the county. Are all these radio, you get what I'm asking? Or I mean, you have a different radio than what some of the other radios are, or? I mean, are they all on the same? Because we bought all those county radios,
Yep.
right? Are those different radios than what you have?
it's the Ford, Chevy, Dodge, Toyota
Yeah, right.
thing.
Yep,
So
yep,
everybody
yep.
has, there's different brands out there. They're all capable of relatively the same thing. Some are more capable. The radios that Emily and I are carrying, mine actually is 10 years old, the one on my hip. Emily's is about 6. Those are, call them $5,000 radios. The radios that the sheriff's office got for the deputies that they carry on their hip, those are $10,000 radios now.
Okay.
So the cost of technology has really, you know what it's done.
So have we ever considered looking at how many radios we have across the county? And this probably be a sheriff question too. And saying, all right, how many do we really need? And then is there now the time to
So the
maybe?
issue,
Because we,
the reason that we have these spare radios is that right now, last year it was 2 times a year because we had Ragbri and the Nationals. We have an influx of outside help. The easiest thing for us to do is hand Monroe Ambulance or Jasper County Sheriff one of our radios, or Jasper County EMS, hand them one of our radios to ensure that we can talk when they're here helping us. So we've done that. I think every year that Emily's been here, we've had at least one event where we brought in outside radios. We borrowed radios from,
and I know we have events, like obviously
Yep.
well, between the races and tulip time. And I mean, we've got, and I get that. I just was, has everything just inflation? I mean, everything keeps, and then the inflation keeps going, but the value in which we receive
Right.
is less.
You'd think we could all get on the same page, wouldn't you?
if only the legislature could cap inflation like they capped your ability
Yeah.
to do your
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
Keisha, answering your question, I don't feel like we have too many.
How many do we have? Just to,
Well, it depends. I mean,
We have about 20 we call it our equipment cache. We have about 20.
In our department.
in your department?
Yep.
yeah, but we have, the sheriff's department also has some that I believe
Yep.
also could help utilize with the public health.
Well, the
Right.
sheriff traditionally has borrowed some of the radios. This year we moved into public health. The sheriff has access to them. He's using those. So those, what have they borrowed the last few years? Is it 10 or 20?
During nationals?
Yeah,
Roughly 12.
12. So they already have those. All this to say, prior to having these radios, we were borrowing radios from Dallas County and the Iowa National Guard, programming them prior to our event with our stuff.
Right.
At the end of the event, we had to take them back and have them
Reprogram.
reprogrammed. So there's time, there's money, the vendors love it.
Sure.
Long-term, we're better off to just own a few extra radios. So.
Okay.
And I would point out that the radios, all of these radios that we're talking about were bought with either ARPA money or 911 funds.
So Jeff, explain how your salary comes,
Yep.
3%, and then I would like Emily to explain salary for Jim also, so.
Rough numbers, 82% of mine is EMA, The balance is 911. Emily's is 60% EMA, 20% PIO funded by you, and 20% 911. Is that what, does that answer the question? Okay.
So it's split,
Okay.
yes.
So,
So we're responsible for very little of the salaries. In a,
Yeah, I mean, you.
so
Directly, yes.
I'm oversimplifying
Yeah.
it.
Directly, yes, with no other board and there's no 911 board or EMA commission in the middle of it. Yeah, that one, 20% of her salary is directly from you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I know.
Yeah.
So I missed, though. So if I understand this right, I mean, just, we gotta put Department 99, the ask that I have in the worksheet is low based off the initial.
Yep,
Okay, so if I missed that, I'm sorry.
it's
So
okay. Things
we
have been
need to-
on
we need
the,
to show
things
them
have
that.
been
We
really
need to
in
show them that
flux.
for tomorrow. Okay, so can you go to Department 99? So what he's talking about, the direct,
It's understated by 40,000.
more than
More-
that.
more than that.
More than
More
that.
than that.
So
because-
it's at last
Okay.
year's level,
Jake and I put in a preliminary number of 255, which was last year's level. Um,
225.
220. What is?
Cause at that one time, we
All
were
right.
contemplating the
50, and then
first.
it's 225 this year, yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, you probably could just put in 225.
Because that's what,
Help me
You need to
explain,
put
help me
390.
understand this.
so it needs to
again.
be 390 is what you just said.
Yep,
How's your salary divvied out again?
mine,
Yeah.
roughly 82% EMA. The balance, so 17% and change.
So is coming from us though, right? That-
Yeah.
Okay.
That is,
That's what I was saying,
That's what I
yeah,
wanted,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I was trying to, because I thought to myself, well, I must have misunderstood it, because what makes a difference, what percentage we say if we're not, okay.
It's from the EMA fund, but it's, the EMA fund is
yeah.
funded by the county,
Yeah,
basically.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I was confused.
apologize for any confusion that I caused.
Right, fine.
I'm easy to confuse.
Well, with all this, I get to,
And if Tyler was gonna work on some numbers for us. If Tyler, if you're on, please make sure that you're paying attention that there was an increase in the general fund.
So, I
Department
mean,
99.
our version 1 has 225 in there. So if you want to, I mean, for this purpose and change, I mean, the request is that, do you want, I think we put it back to that on the worksheet because that's where we are
Yep.
and that's the consideration and that's the request, okay? But that's a direct,
Well, the
That-
problem with it is sheriff changed some and that,
the version 1 and the 400 hasn't changed.
right, yeah.
So if you accept that, we'll change it.
Are you asking if you wanted to change something on version 1, 400? No, at this
Okay.
point, no, yeah, is that what?
Okay,
yeah, is
so
that
you
what
just
you're
have to
asking?
understand that that
We need
version
to
1
include
had
that, yeah. we need to-
229. Could you make that green, please? That box? That's a direct relation to the fund balance for,
Yeah.
the projected fund balance for Fund 2. That difference.
Yeah.
And the green just indicates a change. So thank you.
so I don't want you to hold the microphone the entire time without saying too much. Do you have anything that I forgot? Anything that you want to correct?
No, sir.
And we can quote you on that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. We could all just go back and shake the money tree and, right?
Or plant another one.
Let's plant another one. So, yeah, we've got a lot to think about as a board, I mean, honestly. So tomorrow,
Did,
we will not be hearing from departments.
was Tyler on or not?
I don't know if he's on
Oh.
or not. I'll talk to him.
I'm here. Working on some stuff.
So you did hear what I said, Tyler?
Kind of.
Okay.
I heard what you said, but I wasn't listening to what Jeff said, so.
So obviously, in the version 1, it was showing that there was 225, 250, what was it? Let's see.
225.
225 for EMA. And he's proposing that to be increased to 390
For which fund?
from Department Fund, is it two? It is Fund Two? Yeah, it's Fund Two.
So $165,000 increase to the fund to expense.
Expense, yes.
All right.
Okay. But what comes out of Department 99?
That does. This is the 99, so it's Fund 2, Department 99 is the county contribution to EMA.
Oh, it is, it is. Yeah, no, yeah, you're right, okay.
This
I
is
was
the,
thinking
this is the
Department-
county's direct funding to that
Department
fund.
99, Fund One, sorry.
Yeah,
That's
it's-
just, yeah,
it's-
but thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah,
Fund Two.
EMA in Marion County comes out of Fund 2.
So tomorrow, we need to discuss a little bit more about health insurance. The libraries are gonna wanna know what our thoughts are. We have had some ask, whether it's HERDA, Humane Society, I believe there was another one, so we'll discuss that. We'll review, we've got levy rates, we've got raises, we've got comp board, and we've got lost.
Yep.
So I'm gonna try to prioritize in how we're going to do that because, obviously, we gotta view these in a way that, because some implement, it's cause and effect, I
Yeah.
guess I should say, so.
So the cash flow worksheets do show like 5-cent increments for Fund 2,
Yep.
if that's a consideration. And it would be plus or minus, raise or lower.
Yep.
And if you want any other tax-related revenue change, I mean, unfortunately, that's one of your few that has much flexibility. I can get you whatever you want. I have a worksheet that, I mean, if you want to, so if you wanted something different than that, let me know and I can try and work on that. But
No,
unfortunately, it's very limited on those levy
Yep.
adjustments.
So, other than that, that's pretty much all I have at this point. Tyler, if you're still on, I am probably gonna call you here in a little bit as soon as we're done. I got a couple questions for you, but, Board, you don't have any further questions? We will adjourn till tomorrow at 9 AM and I'll entertain a motion.
Move adjourned.
Second?
McCombs,
Aye.
Mueller,
Aye.
Johnner.
Aye.